Hi guys, it's Tanvi here. My legal pal is back. Today we have a very interesting topic in our hand. We're going to be talking about daughters' rights on ancestral property. There's been a lot of discussions that has been happening on this topic for the past month. Today we have Shivani with us. She'll be joining in this discussion.
Hi Tanvi. Hello guys.
Hi Shivani. So Shivani is a third year law student studying in Bangalore as of now, and she'll be here, and we both will be discussing about the daughter's rights on ancestral property.
So recently, Honorable Supreme Court passed a judgment on 11th of August, and they held that now daughters are also the co-partners in the ancestral property, and they can also acquire the rights on the ancestral property that they get from their father, the grandfather, or the great grandfather. So before moving on to this, we'll just have a brief view about the history of Hindu Succession Act 1956.
Yes. So Hindu Succession Act 1956, it was enacted in 1956. So what happened before 1956? So before 1956, there were a lot of customary laws that was followed throughout India. In different regions, different school of thoughts were followed. Primarily, there were two school of thoughts that was followed. One was Mitakshara school of law. The other was Dayabhaga school of law. Mitakshara school of law was prevalent in northern India, and Dayabhaga school of law was prevalent in in the states of Assam and Bengal. So there was a need felt to codify the Hindu law. So that's when the Hindu Succession Act 1956 came in. So it codified the Mitakshara law basically. Can you tell us a little about Hindu Succession Act 1956?
Hindu Succession Act is a codified form of Mitakshara law. So Mitakshara law gave us a survivorship rule where the co-partners in the family will only be the male descendants, and it will only be for 3 generations of the family.
Okay, so basically Hindu Succession Act 1956, it conferred the right to the on the ancestral property only to the sons of the family. That was the main point. Daughters were not recognized at all. It was based on the section 6 rule, that is the survivorship rule, wherein only the male lineal descendants were given the right on the ancestral property of the fathers and the great grandfathers. Correct?
Yeah.
Can you just explain what a co-partner means?
Yeah, so co-partners are the male members of a family who are leniently descendant, and it is only up to the 3 generations of the family. That is the son, the grandson, the great grandson, and if at once only these 3 co-partners can claim their rights on a co-partnery property, that is the ancestral property.
And also, a co-partner has a right to seek partition on that ancestral property.
Now let's take an example. Suppose A is the father, B is the son, C is the grandson, D is the great grandson, and E is the great great grandson. And A is the holder of the ancestral property. Then A, B, C, and D will be the co-partner of this ancestral property. For instance, if anyone among the 4 generations is no more, suppose the father is dead, then the next in line, that is E, great great grandson, will also get the co-partner right on the ancestral property.
So after this act was enacted in 1956, there were a lot of discussions that were held. There were a lot of liberal thinkers who thought that it wasn't correct. It wasn't correct to discriminate.
Yeah.
Right, because the women were not given any right in that Hindu Succession Act 1956. So there were a lot of discussions held, and it was thought to bring a change. And after a span of 50 long years, in 2005, an amendment was made. Shivani, can you tell us a little about the amendment?
Yeah. So basically, there was a law commission, and 174th law commission report suggested some recommendations that women are discriminated on the ground for the inherited property, and they should also be given equal rights as that of the male counterparts.
Yeah.
So this suggestions was taken into consideration, and then an amendment was made in 2005, which also included daughters as the co-partner in the Hindu joint family, that is the Hindu undivided family.
Okay, so basically in 2005 there were two divisions made. One was testamentary and the another was intestate.
Yeah.
So testamentary talked about those cases wherein a will is made, where a Hindu has died, but he has made a will. So in that case, the law is not applicable, because in the will he can specify that a part of his property will be given to his daughter, son, to XYZ. So we are not concerned about the testamentary rule. We'll be talking about the intestate rule, because in case of ancestral property, no will is made.
Yeah, testamentary succession is only for the self-acquired property, because only in self-acquired property we can make a will. However, for ancestral property we cannot make a will, and it comes under intestate succession. So 2005 amendment introduced 4 classes under intestate succession. So when a person dies without making a will, or when there is a question of dividing the ancestral property, then intestate succession is applied. Now, if a person died without making a will, and if he or she has an ancestral property, the question arises how this property will be divided. So, according to the 2005 amendment, the first right on this particular property will be given to the class 1 heir, which includes the mother, the widow or the husband, the son, and the daughter. Now, this 4 group of people will get an equal share on the ancestral property. So basically, the ancestral property will be divided among them equally.
Okay. So that was the main point here, guys, that now daughters will also get a right in the ancestral property of her fathers and the grandfathers. That was the main point here. But after this 2005 amendment, still there were a lot of confusions. There were a lot of conflicting decisions that took place after 2005. And now we'll be talking about 2 to 3 cases which will really clear it out for you, why the confusions were there in the first place. So the first case that we're going to be talking about is Prakash versus Phulvati case, which took place in 2015.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that case?
So in Prakash versus Phulvati, it was held that if after the 2005 amendment, basically the right was given to the daughter as a co-partner, and it was held that daughters should be treated equally just like the son.
Yes.
And now since this right was given, however, this right was given to the daughter, there was a lot of problems, and there were certain cases where the daughters couldn't seek the enjoyment of this right. Now, there was this case of Prakash versus Phulvati, where the Supreme Court held that if the father is not alive on 2005, on the date of the amendment, that is on 9 September 2005, then the daughter cannot seek right on the ancestral property, and this actually created a lot of conflicts and confusions among the people.
So as we can see, the ruling, it kind of went against the 2005 amendment, because it was said that if the father is not alive on the date of the amendment, the daughter will have no right on the ancestral property. But after that case, another case that we're going to be talking about is the Damana versus Amar case in the year 2018.
Yeah, just after 2 years.
After 2 years of the previous case. So in that, during that time, it was held that irrespective of the fact that the father was alive or not on 9 September 2005, irrespective of the fact that the daughter was born before that amendment or after the amendment, the daughter will get a right in the co-partnership Hindu family property.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So, as mentioned, we already said how in 2005 amendment, the survivorship rule, that is how male descendants will get the rights, how that rule was completely abrogated. And yet, these cases are again giving rise to a lot of conflicting ideas amongst people. So that's when the current judgment comes in. Can you tell us about the current judgment?
Yeah, so basically after these 2 judgments were passed, there were many conflicts, and it was the need for this matter to be referred to a higher judge bench in the Honorable Supreme Court. So a recent judgment was passed on 11th of August 2020, that is the Vinita Sharma versus Rakesh Sharma, where the bench was headed by Justice Arun Mishra, Justice Abdul Nazir, and Justice M.R. Shah. So the Supreme Court settled this law, and they gave an extension towards this legislation that that it doesn't matter if the father is alive on the date of the amendment or not, or if the daughter is born before the date of the amendment, or if she is born after the date of the amendment. The daughters have been given co-partnership right, that is a right by the birth, and if a right has been given, then they can they can ask for partition whenever they want, and it won't change the fact that the father was born before the basically the father died before 2005 or not.
Okay. So basically, now what happened that the moment the daughter is even conceived in the womb of the mother, she will get the co-parsonage right to the parental property, to the Hindu ancestral property, irrespective of the fact that the father was alive or not on the date of the amendment, irrespective of the fact if the daughter was born or not before or after that amendment.
Just like that of a son, just like how the son was given right just from the mother's womb, as you have already told.
Okay. So, see, when the first case came in, Prakash versus Fulvati, it was thought, the judgment told us that how 2005 amendment was completely prospective in nature. Okay. And then later, Damana versus Amar case ruling told us how 2005 amendment was retrospective in nature, because that case told us how, it did not matter if the father was alive or not.
Yeah.
But now, the current judgment, after the current judgment, I have been hearing a lot of people saying that the 2005 amendment is retroactive in nature.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how is it retroactive in nature?
So, Tanvi, it is actually retroactive in nature, because retroactive itself means that there is some exceptions toward this law.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happened is this, it is very obvious that if such right has been given to the daughter, then a lot of litigations will proceed, and it will create a lot of conflicts among everyone, that a partition has already been done, and now the daughter will go and seek right on that.
Okay.
So what the Supreme Court did was that they set a cutoff date of December 2004. Now, before this date, if ever a partition has been done by the statutory law, or by proper metes and bounds, a partition has been done, then such partitions cannot be affected by this law. That is, the daughter cannot seek their right on such partitions.
Okay. So basically, a cutoff date was decided by the court.
Yeah,
correct?
exactly.
So 20th December 2004 was the date that was decided, and it was said that all the cases falling previously, for example, if a partition had already been taken place through a registered deed with all the proper documents, in that case, the daughter will have no right. She will not be able to exercise her right towards, to claim the ancestral property. But in case if there is an oral settlement, if an oral settlement of partition had taken place before 20th December 2004 without evidence of any public documents as such, in that case, daughters will be able to get the right. Daughters can fight for her right. She will get a share in the ancestral property.
Yeah, so a lot of times people come up with this thing. Yeah, we had an oral partition, so and in oral partition there are a lot of times when we don't have any proof.
Yeah, correct.
Don't have any evidence to provide that there was an oral partition. So that's why the court said that if ever there is an oral partition, then such oral partition should be proved by evidence on public by some public documents or whatever is there with the party. And if they prove that there was an oral partition, then the daughter cannot claim right on such oral partition property.
Okay. So I think it's very clear what we are trying to communicate. Finally, the main decision is that daughters have a right on the ancestral property of her father, grandfather, and great grandfather.
So the daughters are also considered as a joint legal heir in an ancestral property, and a lot of matters had been pending in in different courts due to the legal embroglio that was caused because of this conflicting judgments. And the Supreme Court held that all the high courts or the subordinate courts should decide all the pending matters within the span of 6 months.
So finally, this decision was taken that all the cases will be, they'll again be investigated, and justice is going to be served. Daughters will finally have a right in the ancestral property.
It is basically a great step towards women empowerment.
Yeah, it is a great step towards women empowerment against fighting the discrimination that has been taking place, since 1956, not even since before 1956.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you guys. I hope the message was very clear and you have understood what we were trying to convey. If you have any queries, please put it in the comments below. Shivani and I will definitely try our best, to get back to you. Do like, share, and subscribe our channel, My Legal Pal. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.